Oh, mercy. What's better than a little Bullwinkle? Hello, poetry lovers, there for our last day, our last poem on Gerard Manley Hopkins. I can think of nothing better. Well, here we are with a fabulous little poem as our ultimate dive into Hopkins. So this poem might as well serve as a guide for achieving Hopkins' concept of in-stress, which, just as a reminder, is the apprehension of an object in an intense thrust of energy toward it that enables one to realize its distinctiveness. Okay, so we've talked about that whole business of inscape, and the in-stress is the act of finding that out. Okay, so wanted to expand and say that you've been introduced to the rhetorical figure called ecphonesis, which is a Greek term for an emotional exclamation. All right, now we've talked about extended metaphor. Well, this Petrarchan sonnet is it exemplifies extended ecphonesis. I'm not even sure that I've ever heard that before, so you heard it here first. Heard it here first. All right. And one need look no farther than the 16 exclamatory statements in this sonnet to see that Father Gerard really wants us to see what he sees, so that we can perceive what he perceives, and perhaps most important of all, feel what he feels, which is a passion, rapturous passion for God in the world. All right, so let's go ahead and read this little rascal. So you can either pause now and make the marks that I have made. Then you're probably going to have to pause later when we switch on over to page 2229 where the couplet lives. But here's our reading of the Starlight Night. Look at the stars. Look up at the skies. Oh, look at all the firefolk sitting in the air. The bright burrows, the circle citadels there. Down in dim woods the diamond delves, the elves' eyes. The gray lawns cold where quick gold lies. Wind beat, white beam, airy abeles set on a flare. Flake doves sent floating forth at a farmyard scare. Ah, well, it is all a purchase, all is a prize. Buy then, bid then. What? Prayer, patience, alms, vows. Look, a May mess like on orchard boughs. Look, March bloom like on mealed with yellow sallows. These are indeed the barn, with indoors house the shocks. This peace bright paling shuts the spouse Christ home, Christ and his mother and all his hallows. All right, so let's take a look at some of the devices that Hopkins is using here. And now is probably a good time to tell you that today's this annotation is brought to you by the General Pencil Company's Cedar Point, number 333, 2HB. It's a fine pencil. It's all cedar and no paint on it. It's great. Alrighty, so let's take a look here at the opening line. And so we've got look. Now on the surface, this would appear to be epizeuxis. However, this is an example of something that we haven't seen in a few days, and that is elaborative. Okay, elaborative diacope. So, elaborative diacope. Diacope in general is the repetition of a word with some intervening matter. We talked before about vocative diacope is where the words are separated by a name, like run, Toto, run. In this case, what we've got is the repetition here that elaborates on that, on the first word. So if I said, you know, Johnny's dumb as a stump, okay, that would be an example of elaborative diacoby, because I'm essentially expanding upon the idea in the second repetition. Okay, all right. So what look at the sort of the image of that he's creating here. The fire folk. This is metonymy for stars. Okay, metonymy for stars. And so as he's asking us to cast our glance upward, we have that image of ascent, moving up. And then now, so we're seeing the bright boroughs. So boroughs, as a sort of medieval fortified group of houses, but it also is like an urban constituency. So you've heard about the boroughs in New York, and that's the way that New York is divided up. This is a holdover from Great Britain. This is something that is formerly you see in Great Britain. Then the circle citadels there. So citadels is a fortress that commands a city. Okay. Janky handwriting. Okay, so it's also something like a stronghold. So the idea is that the profusion of stars is so great that in a sense in Hopkins' Poetic Imagination, it looks like there's a fortress, an enclosure of so many stars. All right, and so look how he shifts his or our view. Okay, shifts the lens of his poetic attention to now down. So down in dim woods, the diamond delves, the elves' eyes. So if we're going to take a look at the alliteration there, we've got the down in dim woods, the diamond delves, the elves' eyes. So nice extension then of the E sound here. Okay. Now here, the gray lawns cold where gold. What do we have there? That's internal rhyme. Internal rhyme. Cold and gold. I mean, don't be shocked if I ask you about that one. Put a Q, circle around it. Okay. Where quick gold lies. So here we have yet another example of elaborative diacoby. So we've got the gold, but in addition to it being this sort of elaborative diacoby, it's also an example of a neologism. So he is making this word up. Yep. Your note tells you that it's not unlike quicksilver. And so what we're supposed to see in this image is the reflection, the image echo of the stars in the sky, and then the light that is shining down on the droplets of water and so forth that are there in the dewy grass. Okay, so and then that light, instead of looking as silvery, it looks more gold, probably because there's the influence of colors there in the shadows. All right, so wind beat, white beam. So you can hear. Do you hear that off internal rhyme? We have the wind beat, and then the white beam. It's fantastic. All right, so the airy abeles. So look, we have that profusion of E sounds, airy abeles, wind beat, beam, and abeles. Set on a flare. So these are, the abeles are the white poplars. And what they do is they've got this, if you've ever seen poplar trees, they give off, and he's going to continue this idea of the floating particulate matter, like from the tree itself. So the flake doves sent floating forth at a farmyard scare. Obviously, you can hear all the alliteration again in this line. So once again, Father Gerard gives us a marvelous acoustic banquet to go along with the visual things that he is describing. Okay, so the alliterative FL and F sounds in this particular line, and then this well, it is all a purchase, all is a prize. So purchase meaning something to buy and also to grasp, which goes back again to this this in-stress idea. Okay, all is a prize. And so then the break. So he's saying, well, the argument is that if all this is so valuable, and you can't miss the business of the diamond and the gold, all these precious things that human beings find or think are valuable, right? I mean, gemstones and precious metals. So if he is making the implicit comparison between these things in the world that are just, I mean, we're talking about like flora, right? I mean, these are plants and elements of plants and trees and so forth, but they are implicitly that valuable. Valuable is the things that that human beings place great monetary value on. Okay, so he's saying then, buy then, bid then. And now in this parenthetical where he asks what? All right, so anthropophora, right? What is it that we're going to buy? We're going to buy prayer, patience, alms, and vows. These things are what it's going to take to purchase the things of God's world. The thing that if you want to have that sort of that beauty of what God has given to you, just like in the last poem, all God's creation wants is or needs is someone to behold it. Okay. All right. So anthropophora there. All right. Look. Now here, this is epizeuxis. So in this case, he's repeating, the one word is being repeated, but the sense of it does not change. A may mess. So this is another example of a neologism. So I'm going to turn it up to here. All right, there's one. Then quick gold is one. Okay. You could say that this entire compound word is March bloom. All that. These are made-up words, and just like with figurative language that is an effort to express something that is seemingly inexpressible, here's Hopkins making up words, combining words in order to express what he, in a sense, there's no words to express what it is that he is trying to describe to us. Just a marvelous idea. Okay, so these are indeed the barn. All right. Now, this is an incredible paradox here for us to consider for a moment. The idea of the barn. So, again, it's the concept of inscape that allows these beauties to hold something. A barn is a large building that is meant to hold things that are valuable. Things that are essential for the running of a farm, the feed for the cattle. Well, the thing that feeds us and our spiritual selves are these wonders. And so these wonders then, all the things that he is pointing out, they hold wonder that we can then go and access. That it stores it for us, and we can get it whenever we want. Okay? All we need to do is what Hopkins is exhorting us to do. And just look around, man. Look around and see it, baby. All right, how about that? Getting a little bit, ekphonetic myself there. How about that? All right, so here we go. So within doors house the shocks. Wow, this is a really cool word, and I'm going to tell you what it means. So on one hand, it is a pile of sheaves of grain. It's the same thing this is like stooks from the last poem that are laid down. All right. here's what's awesome about his use of that word, that this insight that comes upon you is like a shock. It should startle you. It's the epiphany that you have, that the sudden insight, okay, in a sense is like a shock. And you've got that echo of the sheaves of grain, which are essential. I mean, these are like commodity items that we find that are so valuable, so important to sustain life. Because of course, what do you make out of grain? Bread, right? Staff of life. All right, so this peace bright paling shuts the spouse Christ home. Okay, so you talk about the idea of Christ being the bridegroom of the church. Okay, so here Hopkins is bringing this idea together. So Christ and his mother and all his hallows or saints. Okay, and so all hallows, all saints, like All Saints Day that you've heard is the day after Halloween or All Hallows Eve. Okay, so just a marvelous poem, and lots for us to appreciate and digest. And I hope you enjoyed our journey through Gerard Manley Hopkins as much as I did. And see you next time.